Donald J. Trump took oath as the 47th President of the United States this week. Despite all the rumblings at home, how will this affect our part of the world, South Asia? Will this mean more traction for the US Indo-Pacific partnership? And how will political, economical, and geostrategic ties continue in countries in South Asia such as Pakistan and Bangladesh?
America loves India, America respects India, and America will always be faithful and loyal friends to the Indian people.
At Namaste Trump on his India trip during his first term, President Trump had spelt out his administration's India stand. In front of a 125,000-strong crowd at the Modera Stadium in Ahmedabad, the US President and the Indian Prime Minister were at pains to show off their effusive bond and bonhomie. Trump 1.2 South Asia policy was characterized by a focus on countering China, enhancing ties with India, and pressuring Pakistan on terrorism. Watchers expect a continuity in his second stint at the White House.
This administration is going to do what the smaller countries of South Asia often accused the US in the past, and that is looking at South Asia through the prism of New Delhi. They're going to listen to New Delhi. Trump in particular will listen to Modi.
Analyzing possibilities and challenges for South Asia and the White House under Trump 2.0, country by country. India will remain a natural partner for the US along with Japan and Australia to counter China. Trump will likely continue to leverage India's strategic importance in the Indo-Pacific. On trade and immigration, India-US tensions could continue. There will likely be pressure on India to reduce tariff barriers and comply on intellectual property rights. Yet a positive trajectory is expected overall. With Pakistan, despite cooperation in counter-terrorism, immediate rapprochement under the Shehbaz Sharif government remains an uphill task. Pakistan's importance in US foreign policy has fluctuated based on strategic interests and the stance on terrorism. For Bangladesh, the US is the biggest destination of its exports and its biggest source of its FDI. The US-Bangladesh Business Council was established in 2021 and business delegations have been visiting Bangladesh. Post the power shift from Sheikh Hasina to Muhammad Yunus though, big uncertainties arise. New tariffs may hit it hard. Trump himself described Bangladesh as being in a total state of chaos. Then US Assistant Secretary of State for South Asia Donald Lu's visit to Bangladesh in September 2024 perhaps suggests that there will be overall continuity with change for South Asia under Trump 2.0. Experts say Washington is aware of its preeminent status in the Indo-Pacific region, which will have a bearing on South Asia as well. President Trump's transactional style of operation means a cost-benefit balancing ahead. Trump 2.0 is expected to generate both hope and concern. Countries in South Asia will have to learn to face the challenges and capitalize on the opportunities.
Moving on to Afghanistan, there's growing pressure for the Taliban to fall in line. The country's acting deputy foreign minister has urged the top leadership to reopen girls' schools. His voice comes amidst growing international rebuke of a country's policy that has led Afghanistan into isolation. Here's more.
For the first time, a voice for muzzled women's rights from within the Taliban government. The Deputy Foreign Minister for Political Affairs, the influential Sher Mohammad Abbas Stanikzai, put out a strong public rebuke of a policy that remains a big cause for the Taliban's international isolation. Stanikzai called on the Taliban to open the doors of education to all, saying restriction on girls' and women's education was not in line with Islamic Sharia law. He pointed at injustice being committed against 20 million out of the country's 40 million people, the female population. As he stressed that knowledge was open to both men and women in the time of the Prophet. This was a Taliban response at last to U-turns on promises to open high schools for girls, closure of universities to female students at the end of 2022, and absence of any timeline for changes. The policies have come in for flack globally, including by Islamic scholars. Western diplomats have pointed out that any path towards formal recognition of the Taliban remains blocked until there is a change on their policies towards women. To that end, locals see the change of regime in the US as a pressure source for the Taliban towards change and corrections.
I think a lot of our politicians think Trump is a good choice. He won with a lot of votes. I also believe that there could be a general change for girls' education and that there could be opportunities for them because we all need them. Women don't represent half of society, but society as a whole. So if there is a general change in women's education, it will be extraordinary.
At a summit on girls' education in Muslim communities held in Islamabad earlier this month, Nobel laureate and rights activist Malala Yousafzai urged Muslim leaders not to legitimize the Afghan Taliban government and to show true leadership over their assault on women's rights.
And in Afghanistan, an entire generation of girls is being robbed of their future. This conference will not be serving its purpose if we do not talk about the education of Afghan girls. Because Afghanistan is the only country in the world where girls are completely banned from education beyond grade 6.
So are things finally headed in the right direction on education rights for girls in Afghanistan? An outcry against the Taliban's excesses against women has gained more prominence now than ever before. Can the voice for corrections from within the Taliban make the much-needed difference?
Up next, let's take a look at a few of the stories that have made headlines on our Inside South Asia wrap.
A digital tree Aadhaar number for every chinar tree in Jammu and Kashmir. That is the idea behind an efforts being made to preserve and conserve the chinar trees across the region. This after a significant decline in the population of chinar trees. It took authorities over 4 years to complete the task, tagging each and every chinar tree with their vital stats like status, height, girth and geographical location. Over 29,000 chinar trees are geotagged so far and only few thousand are left.
Actually, our purpose was to just have an idea how much chinars, exact number of chinars that are prevailing, that are growing in Kashmir. There was no credible data how Srinagar district, how many in Srinagar district, how many chinars we have got, and in other districts how many chinars we have got there, and what is the status of chinar trees and how they are behaving like now, because we have been doing urbanization, doing lot of developmental works, and
Nepal has sharply increased climbing permit fees for the world's tallest peak, Mount Everest. It has also introduced several measures aimed at controlling garbage pollution and preventing accidents on the hike. Under the revised mountaineering regulations, the fee for foreigners, climbing Everest from the normal south route in the spring season has been raised to $15,000 from the current $11,000 per person. The autumn season, climbing fee has been increased from $5,500 to $7,500. At the same time, the permit cost per individual for the winter and monsoon seasons has risen from $2,650 to $3,650. The new rates will come into effect from the 1st of September 2025. Further, under the revised rules, every 2 climbers must hire a guide to climb any mountain over 8,000 meters, including Everest. And mandatory waste collection is now part of a broader effort to address environmental degradation in the Everest region. The Nepal Supreme Court issued an order last year directing the government to regulate the rising number of expeditions on the mountain.
Pakistan's Gwadar International Airport has started operations. Funded and built by Pakistan's all-weather ally China, Gwadar International Airport in Balochistan province spans over 430 acres of land. The runway is capable of accommodating large aircraft such as the Airbus A380 and Boeing 747. A Pakistan International Airlines flight landed at the airport, marking the first commercial aircraft to start operations. The airport is situated near Gwadar Port, the centerpiece of the multi-billion-dollar China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC project, which links China's Xinjiang region to Pakistan's coastline.
The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, began its inclusion in the year 2014-2015, recognizing the role of Gwadar in regional connectivity and economic development. The authorities of CPEC prioritized the establishment of this modern airport to provide an important connection between Pakistan and the world.
A court in India's West Bengal awarded life imprisonment until death to convict Sanjay Roy in the August 2024 rape and murder of a postgraduate trainee doctor at the city's Rakkar Medical College and Hospital. India's Central Bureau of Investigation and the West Bengal government have moved the Calcutta High Court seeking capital punishment. 34-year-old Roy is a civic volunteer who worked for Kolkata police when the crime took place.
Iran's top general visited Pakistan at the invitation of Pakistan's army chief, General Asim Munir. The chief of staff of Iran's armed forces, Major General Mohammad Bagheri, said military and security relations between the Islamic Republic and Pakistan are on an upward trajectory and will be further strengthened. He held separate meetings with Pakistan's President Asif Ali Zardari, Defense Minister Khawaja, Asif and Army Chief Asim Munir. Pakistan and Iran have often been at odds over instability along their shared porous border and routinely trade blame for not rooting out militancy. Tensions surged in January last year when Pakistan and Iran exchanged airstrikes, with both claiming to target alleged militant hideouts in each other's territory.
Bangladesh's garment industry, which accounts for the country's 80% of exports, came under severe scrutiny and pressure during last year's revolution in the country. Garment workers were instrumental in overthrowing the government led by Sheikh Hasina. While the industry is now rebounding, it's still on fragile ground.
Images from September 2024, an upheaval of the kind of Bangladesh had never seen. Among the many areas that felt the brunt, Bangladesh's prided garment industry. Several months of flux, low output and low sales amounted to $400 million in losses. Dozens of factories shut down. Tens of thousands of workers lost their jobs. Just 3 months, factory owners say there's been a rebound and operations are almost back to normal. Exports totaled $36 billion in 2024, only slightly below the $38 billion recorded the previous year. The sector grew 13% between July and December 2024. Beginning of January, factory owners say they are working at full capacity again and the outlook looks good.
At present, we are quite busy. We expect 30-40% growth in 2025 compared to 2024. We are almost fully booked for the next 7 to 8 months.
Almost fully booked. But garment workers who are directly hit tell a different story. Many were laid off at the height of the political turmoil and remain out of a job. Fresh recruitment is down and cost-cutting remains the buzzword everywhere. The lucky ones have found work again, though at a lower pay.
Of course, we need to send money home as our parents live there. We send them whatever remains after meeting our expenses. But since the students' uprising, we are bringing money from home instead, as we are finding it harder to make ends meet.
Challenges on the road to a full recovery stare hard. Cotton imports remain restricted with dropping forex reserves. They fell below $40 million for the first time in 2 years. Rising costs and ongoing political tensions leave the garment sector on fragile ground. A weak economy hitting the Taka currency has made imports expensive, hurting manufacturers. Global brands like Primark and Walmart are increasingly shifting orders to Indian exporters. Cambodia and Vietnam are other beneficiaries.
The international buyers always want to take part of the profits only, but they don't want to pay enough, so that our owners can pay enough to the workers. Come any incident in Bangladesh, whether it's Rana Plaza or Tazreen Fashions or coronavirus pandemic, they try to make only the Bangladeshi owners responsible. Of course, Bangladeshi owners have liabilities, but they, international buyers, are not also free from liabilities.
Experts say close strategic planning, adaptability and government-industry collaboration will be critical to pulling the industry out of persistent doldrums. Proactive measures by manufacturers, industry leaders and the government will be key, and it will be central to Bangladesh as a whole getting back on track.
And that's all we have for you on our show this week. For the WION team, I'm Dasani Atada, and I will see you again next week.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA,